Welcome back to Outside Views. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for in-depth analysis on Brexit and UK politics. But let's get into today's topic. Germany has just had a major election and the results could reshape the UK's relationship with Europe. For Keir Starmer, it marks the end of a political alliance, but also the start of a new, potentially more pragmatic partnership. The departure of Olaf Scholz is significant. Scholz was someone Starmer could relate to. They shared similar political instincts. Both were centre-left leaders navigating economic crises and trying to balance progressive values with electoral pragmatism. Now, Scholz is on the way out and Friedrich Merz is set to take over as Germany's new chancellor. And this is a major shift. And the question is, what does that mean for Britain? So let's break it down. First, let's look at why Scholz lost. His coalition government, made up of his own Social Democrats, the Greens, and the pro-business Free Democrats, was deeply unpopular. Germany's economy has been struggling with slow growth, energy price spikes, and a decline in demand for German exports. And migration was another major issue. The German public has grown increasingly frustrated with high levels of immigration, and the government failed to convince voters that they had it under control. The result was a major rejection of all three coalition partners. Scholz's Social Democrats lost heavily. The Greens also suffered major losses, and the Free Democrats didn't even make it past the 5% threshold to stay in parliament. Now Germany is entering what's known as the Zwischenphase, the in-between phase where negotiations take place before a new coalition government is formed. But it's already clear that Merz will lead the next German government. So who is Friedrich Merz? Merz is the leader of the Christian Democratic Union, the CDU, my party, and kind of say Angela Merkel's former party. But he is not Merkel. He represents a more traditional conservative approach. He is pro-business, wants tighter migration controls, and is far more skeptical of state intervention in the economy than Scholz was. And he is also highly critical of Donald Trump. And this is where things get interesting for the UK. One of the key moments in Merz's campaign was his strong condemnation of the Trump administration's ties to Germany's far-right party, the AfD. The AfD made big gains in this election, particularly in former East Germany, and some of its figures have expressed pro-Russia views and even questioned Germany's membership in NATO. Merz, despite being a conservative, wants to position himself firmly against the AfD and, crucially, against Trump's influence in Europe. And this matters for Britain because it creates an opening for stronger UK-German ties. And here's why. Merz is someone who wants Europe to take defense more seriously. He has openly called for Europe to strengthen its military capabilities so it's not dependent on a United States that may not always be reliable. He's in favor of higher defense spending and deeper cooperation between European countries. And this aligns with the growing shift in UK foreign policy under Starmer. Since Trump's re-election, the UK has been rethinking its approach to NATO and European security. Trump has repeatedly questioned NATO's role and has even suggested that the US might not come to the defense of countries that don't meet their spending commitments. And this has put European defense high on the agenda. And Merz is likely to push for greater UK-EU defence cooperation, something that Starmer may now be more open to. And this could be where Starmer and Merz find common ground. They may not share the same ideology, but they do share an interest in strengthening Europe's security in the face of a more unpredictable United States. And this could create opportunities for new UK-EU agreements on defense and intelligence sharing. And it might even pave the way for a broader rethink of UK-EU relations. But there's another area where Merz could be important for Starmer, and that's Brexit. Merz has been openly critical of the EU's handling of Brexit negotiations. He has argued in the past that the EU should have offered David Cameron more concessions to keep Britain in. That's where I disagree with Merz, by the way. And while he's a strong supporter of the EU, he may be more willing than Scholz to push for a reset in UK-EU relations. That doesn't mean joining the EU again. That's not on the table at the moment, despite my return series. But it does mean the possibility of better economic and trade arrangements, not cherry-picking, but potentially even a closer customs arrangement or sectoral deals in key industries. The challenge for Starmer is that Merz is not an instinctive ally. Scholz was a centre-left politician who shared many of Starmer's views. Merz is a conservative who will have different priorities. But sometimes political pragmatism matters more than ideological alignment. And Merz, as a pro-business leader who wants stronger European defence ties, could be a useful partner for the United Kingdom. There's also a warning for Starmer in the German election results. Scholz's loss was not just about economic struggles, it was also about immigration. The German public rejected a government that they felt had lost control over migration. And this is something that Starmer will have to pay attention to. If Labour fails to convince the British public that it has a firm grip on migration policy, it could face a similar backlash in the next election. The question is whether Starmer will learn the right lessons from the German election. Will he take the warning signs seriously and adjust his own approach to migration, to economic growth and security policy? Or will he risk making the same mistakes that led to Scholz's downfall? The next few months will be crucial. Merz's government will likely be in power for most of Starmer's time in office. The UK will need to build strong relationships with Berlin and ensure that the Brexit reset remains on the table. And this could shape the future of UK-EU relations for years to come. Germany's role as the largest economy in Europe means its approach to international trade, energy policy and regulatory frameworks will have an outsized impact on the UK. If Merz pushes for a more flexible EU approach to trade deals, this could provide opportunities for Britain to negotiate improved access to the single market without full membership. On defence, the shift towards greater European cooperation could see the UK more involved in joint defence projects, intelligence sharing frameworks, and coordinated military strategies, particularly as NATO's stability remains uncertain under Trump's leadership. The wider geopolitical implications of this election cannot be ignored. The UK's positioning in global affairs is at a crossroads, and the choices Starmer makes in the coming months will determine the long-term trajectory of Britain's influence in Europe, and not only Europe, even beyond. So, what do you think? Will Merz be a better partner for Starmer than Scholz was? Could this election lead to a Brexit reset? And what does it mean for the UK's role in Europe? Let me know in the comments below the video. Let's discuss. And if you want to see another video, it's right here in the end screen.